So today we have Chris with us here from Novos, and it's very, very exciting to chat with him finally. I've had a few conversations with him before, but finally we're doing the podcast. This has been something ongoing for what, maybe 2 months that we keep rescheduling.
Yeah, I think so.
But
About
we're
2 months. Yeah.
finally here. Okay, so let's talk about your company and what you're doing. What is Novos exactly?
Sure. So Novos is the first company of its kind that's focused on helping people to extend their health spans and their lifespans using science in the process. So there are many companies out there that have been promising for the fountain of youth, so to speak, to slow down aging or anti-aging products and so on. But there's really not much, if any, science behind the claims that these companies make. And oftentimes it's really just maybe hiding signs of aging, like maybe moisturizing your skin, and it hides the sign of wrinkles a little bit or fine lines and so on. Or you might hear of supplements that say this is composed of so many antioxidants and this is going to slow down aging, but that's actually been disproven. It's actually been shown that antioxidants don't really have an impact on your lifespan. And if anything, some antioxidants, if you have too much of them, like vitamin E, can actually shorten lifespan. So we at Novos, we're the first company in the consumer space to do this. We are addressing aging according to what is known in the scientific community as the 9 mechanisms of aging. These are causes of aging that have been identified by scientists over the last decade plus, and through many hundreds of different studies. And when brought together and analyzed, there are these 9 specific causes that are underlying all of these other studies. And so there's never been a product in the consumer field that addresses these mechanisms, at least holistically addresses them, all 9 of these mechanisms. And even in the biotech world and pharmaceutical world, no one is even coming close to what we're doing with Novos.
Can
So
you tell
our
us what
vision is really.
I'm sorry, can you tell us what the 9 mechanisms are?
Sure, sure. So I'll tell you a few of them. Some you might be familiar with already. For example, mitochondrial health. So there's a lot of people talking about mitochondria. It's the power plants of your cells, so to speak. They are in all of your cells practically, and they are what generate power for you to be able to function, for you to think, for your heart to beat, for you to move. And they do so by converting carbohydrates or fat or protein or even alcohol, you've had some, into energy. But as you get older, those are less effective at doing their job, and they aren't able to produce as much energy as they're able to when you're younger. Another one is something called cellular senescence. So cellular senescence is an easy way to think of it is your cells at times can turn into almost a zombie-like state. And when they're in this zombie state, the body can't remove them. Normally, if the body is functioning properly through a process called apoptosis and autophagy, these 2 processes, the body can either have cells self-destruct as apoptosis, or autophagy is when the cells are cleaned up. So these are cells that are no longer functioning properly or have died. So the immune system will clean them up through autophagy. But senescent cells, for one reason or another, aren't detected by the body or aren't removed from the body properly. And they actually start excreting inflammatory molecules. So they can cause neighboring cells to also get damaged and possibly even lead to them becoming senescent as well. So it becomes almost an exponential process. As you're getting older, you have more and more cells that are senescent. And the more cells that you have that are senescent within a given tissue or organ, the less effective that tissue or organ is at performing its function. And you only need a few senescent cells for this to start to build up and the effects to be significant. So there's a class of molecules known as senolytics that can destroy a senescent cell or help the body to remove these senescent cells. And there are biotech companies investing hundreds of millions of dollars in trying to do this. But There's also some natural senolytics out there. And one of the ingredients in our flagship launch product called NOVOS Core, that ingredient is called fisetin. Fisetin has been shown to be a natural, very safe senolytic that can help to remove these senescent cells. Other things, just to list a few, are telomere attrition. Those are like the chromosomes, and it's almost like the ends of shoelaces is how people oftentimes refer to them, and those get shorter as you age. Something called loss of proteostasis. So that is, proteostasis is almost like managing the proteins in your body, and they can start to accumulate. So it's an analogy would be almost like you have garbage or trash bags out on the street. You expect a garbage truck to come and remove those trash bags. And if you imagine in our body, our trash bags can be in the form of proteins that accumulate around cells. If too many of them start to accumulate, those cells, again, can't perform their function properly. And so losing proteostasis means that you don't have as many garbage trucks, so to speak, anymore to remove them. And so that's another mechanism or cause of aging. So I think I've gone through 3 or 4 of them so far. There's a total of 9. And we are the very first and only company in the world to create a product that addresses all 9 of these simultaneously. And we do so with 12 ingredients. All of these ingredients are safe. They're found in nature. They're either already in the human body, or there are things that have been in nature that we've taken in for a long period of time. For example, one of those ingredients impacts another mechanism of aging called epigenetics. So everyone's heard of genetics before, but not as many people have heard of epigenetics. And you can think of that as if your genome is like piano keys, your epigenome is which keys are being played when. So it's basically gene expression, which genes are turned on and which genes are turned off. And that can make all the difference in terms of somebody's health. And so one of our ingredients that positively impacts the epigenome so that it can express itself in a healthy way and lead to your body maintaining itself properly is an ingredient that most people have heard of, but never in application to general health, and that's lithium. And a lot of people hear of lithium when it comes to very, very high doses that can be used for psychiatric reasons. And for those cases, we're talking 1,000, 2,000 milligrams. But what we use is microdose lithium. It's 1 milligram, 1 single milligram, so 1/1000th or 2,000th of the prescription dose. And lithium is an element. It's found in nature. It's found in drinking water. If you had well water or drinking water from natural sources that wasn't purified throughout evolution, we were getting lithium, but we don't get it anymore. And there are epidemiological studies that find that people who get lithium in their diets live longer. They have lower rates of depression and suicide, and so on. And so, of course, that's an epidemiological study. It's different than a randomized placebo-controlled study. But there's a lot of evidence, and scientists believe that lithium is exerting these beneficial effects on lifespan. And then studies have shown that it has beneficial effects on the epigenome. So we've got all of these natural ingredients that are then exerting their effect on these 9 mechanisms.
Lithium is typically used for bipolar syndrome, correct?
Yes, in these very high doses, 1,000 times to 2,000 times higher than what we use. Yes.
So
But
this is
it is.
just enough to be able to reduce all of these effects.
Yeah, well, so we can't speak to bipolar or anything medical, like even just legally, we can't speak to medical cases. So I wouldn't want to even go in that direction. But in terms of, if you think just how we evolved and how many hundreds of thousands of years humans have been evolving for, and we've been out in nature consuming certain types of foods and sources for water, all outdoors, right? And then more recently with water purification and sanitation and so on, our lifestyles have changed dramatically. And we hear this all of the time when it comes to the types of foods that we're eating, these processed foods that have preservatives and are in these sealed bags and neon colors for attention and perfect ratios of salts and sugars and so on. but they're missing the vital nutrients we need and so on. And it extends even into some of these molecules that you would have naturally gotten from eating a natural diet out in the wild, that we didn't really know what the implications would be if we started to package these processed foods and strip them of these nutrients. And we're starting to realize that with more commonly known molecules, say magnesium or zinc or iodine and so on. But what about the lesser known ones like lithium specifically? And we focus on lithium in NOVOS because that has life extending effects, whereas some of these other nutrients that might be missing might nonetheless be healthy, and it's important for us to get them, but they don't necessarily have life extending effects, and that's why we don't necessarily focus on them as much in our product.
So then what would you say, because you did mention that there's, hundreds of maybe thousands of companies out there that are attempting to do the same, but they're not getting anywhere close. What is the difference? I mean, are they using a lot of artificial ingredients? Are they just making false promises? Like how is it that yours is so different aside from, the exact ingredients that you're using at the moment?
Yeah, so I think it really comes down to the team that we have at NOVOS and the access to scientific information that we have. So I was personally interested in longevity, and in addition to longevity, slowing down the rate at which I age and improving my health span. That's all what I was thinking about, and I started doing the research, and one thing led to another. And over the course of many years, I eventually stumbled upon the key researchers in the field of longevity medicine. And these are very highly respected PhDs and MDs across the world at prestigious universities like Harvard and MIT and so on. And then my co-founder, who I began working with him more than 2 years ago, his name is Dr. Chris Mirabile. He wrote a book called The Longevity Code. He is a board member for the X Prize. He is a lecturer for Singularity University, and he's an investor on behalf of a $100 million biotech fund called the Longevity Vision Fund, which focuses on longevity biotech. So he knows everyone in the space and knows what is happening on the cutting edge of science, things that are 10, 20, 30, even 50 years away from reaching us. So he is tremendously knowledgeable about it, but he's also equally as obsessed as I am in health and nutrition and the things that we can do today. So he differentiates it by considering the low tech approach and the high tech approach. So the low tech would be things like nutrition and lifestyle and sleep, and even NOVOS falls into that category. And the high tech would be things like DNA editing and so on, and biotech therapies that are decades away. So we focus obviously on the low tech with NOVOS, but him having those networks that he has and the knowledge and background that he does, he's not afraid to dig very deep into the science. When you think about the people who have typically created supplements, it's not as much of a science backing behind their formulations. Oftentimes it's just based on what other people are doing, so let's create our own equivalent of that, or this is found in nature, so it must be healthy. But why is it really healthy? Like, why don't we try to get to the answers and find out, like, is a goji berry really as healthy as a blueberry? Well, why don't we look at the molecules within it? And even to that point, one of our advisors, scientific advisors, is Dr. Pamela Mayer. She's at the Salk Institute for Biological Studies. She's one of the world's foremost experts on natural substances that are found in fruits and vegetables and their impacts that they can have on our health, on our biology, on our lifespan, on cognitive disorders she focuses largely on, like Alzheimer's and dementia and so on. And unfortunately, most companies just haven't really dug into the science. And to date, no company has dug into the 9 mechanisms of aging quite like we have. And I'm happy to tell you more about our scientists if you care to, but those are just a couple.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to hear about the team. I know you are CEO, correct? And then you have your co-founder. Tell me a little bit about, well, first off, before we get into that, How did you get so obsessed with, anti-aging and the fountain of youth? How did that begin? Because it's not something that every child is, in school thinking about constantly. Like, how am I gonna fight getting old, for instance? What happened with
Right.
you that happened?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because my co-founder did start to think about aging from a very young age. He started before I did. I was more interested in health and building muscle and so on. When 12 years old, I picked up an issue of Men's Health magazine, and I was inspired by like how healthy and fit the guys in the magazine were. So I started exercising when I was 12. I started eating a healthy diet, or what I thought was a healthy diet at the time, which was a low-fat, high-protein diet. And fast forward to when I was 16 years old, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and I almost died from it. And going through an experience like that had me contemplating mortality at a very young age, a lot younger than most people do. And uh, I went from playing football in high school to writing poetry about my life in the woods on the weekends. It was like a complete transformation of who I was. And so that stuck with me, and that's definitely a key component to my interest in aging and health, and trying to prevent something like that from happening to me or to loved ones or society at large in the future. Um, I spent a while in my 20s focused on startups. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I started technology startups. In all different industries, from fintech to social media and others. And I was always, focused on health in the background, and all of my friends knew me as like the healthiest guy amongst their friends. But it wasn't something like to the degree of research. When I was in my late 20s, early 30s, that's when I started to research health. And it actually was kicked off by someone in the alternative health world that a lot of your viewers and listeners probably know of, Dave Asprey, the guy behind Bulletproof. I had a meeting with him about an hour, just one-on-one, and we were just talking about different health-related issues. And I became familiar with the idea of biohacking, as they call it, and started researching it. But as I was researching biohacking, I always had this question in the back of my mind, which was, is what is being recommended for today that would be good for me today, good for me in the long term? Like, in other words, is this something that I would benefit from today, but I would be paying the price for in the future? And after doing a lot of research, it took me some time, but I came across something. It's a big word, but it's a simple concept, a scientific concept called antagonistic pleiotropy. And the idea behind that is what's good for you today can harm you tomorrow. Certain things, for example, sun exposure. It's good for you today, you get vitamin D production, but in many years from now, that can lead to an increased likelihood of mutations and melanoma or cancer forming as a result of that. And so I started looking at everything through that lens of, is this good for me both today and in the long term? And if the answer was yes, as far as we know, as far as science knows, then it was something that I would subscribe to. But if it was something good for me today that would harm me tomorrow, then I would make a point to avoid me. Once in a while, I have some alcohol, which is not good for me in the long term. But there's very, very few exceptions. So that's the lens through which I was looking at all of this. And I hitting my 30s and starting to see a few gray hairs here and there, that was another trigger. But overall, it's just that I've been for my whole life really into this, and I finally had the opportunity to be able to pursue it in the form of a full-time venture.
What are some of the things that, you mentioned biohacking, that you were doing that in the beginning, but not really thinking about it too much. What are some of the things that you do on a daily basis that probably not the regular public would probably do?
Good question. So I used to be more obsessive with this too. Maybe a little bit more than was healthy. I was really hardcore into it when I first started. I'm not doing nearly as much as I used to. What I'd say is that one of the more important things for me, it's less important for a lot of people, but I think that they're harming themselves in the long term, is sleep. I think sleep is tremendously important for our long-term health, especially our brain health and avoiding things like Alzheimer's. Not to mention, I'm really a better person when I sleep well. Like, I'm a better version of myself. My mood is better, my energy, my productivity, my focus, the list goes on. And for people who say I don't need that much sleep, I'm great without it. I think they're fooling themselves. If they were to get amazing sleep for, a week straight, they would realize that life is very different, and colors are brighter and music sounds that much better. So I emphasize that a lot. Things like circadian rhythmicity. I make a point, more on the biohacker side, to get sun exposure or go outdoors within the first hour of waking every day. I put some sunblock on in the process because that's again, in terms of slowing down at least skin aging, that's important. But I don't put it across my whole body, just on my face. And then I at night, here's a little hack that I started doing 5 or 6 years ago, is Hue light bulbs. The brand Philips makes these Hue light bulbs that you can program with your smartphone, and they can change all different colors. And so I have them pre-programmed to change colors, aligns, roughly speaking, with sunset and sunrise. So in the morning, they'll start with red, and then go to orange, yellow, and then eventually to like a blue, natural white light. And then in the evening, they'll do the reverse: yellow, orange, red. I do it a few hours after the natural cycle because I'm working later than when the sun goes down, in the winter at least. But that also helps, like, calm me down, helps my body produce the melatonin it needs. And then when I get into bed, I'm asleep within five or 6 minutes.
Do you think, well, I mean, to begin with, I'm one of those people, not that I don't like sleep, I love it, but I've had insomnia since I was 18. So it's always been an
Yeah.
ongoing battle. Actually, last night, that's what happened to me as well. I couldn't fall asleep until maybe 12 o'clock. And I just magically woke up at 4:30 in the morning. And I lay
Okay.
there, I try to meditate myself back into sleep. But when you say, people would feel so much better if they had good sleep for a week. It's so true, because sometimes I'll have extremely good weeks. I'll have like a week at a time and I just feel fantastic. I'm in a good mood. Everybody loves me. And then, like today, I feel a little bit slower. I feel tired, to be honest. And I'm not one of those people that can take naps or anything like that. So yes,
Mm.
sleep is very, very important. I've always said, I know it looks like it doesn't affect me that much, but it does. I always do feel a lot slower, a lot crankier. I feel like I need to eat a lot more. Yeah, it's a really, really bad problem. Does Novos help with that at all?
Yeah, it's a good thing you asked that. So the quick answer is yes, and I'll get back to it in a second. But it's something I was thinking while you were talking, is that, just the fact that you do have extended periods where you sleep very well, and then periods where you're an insomniac. I think that goes to show that your body is capable of sleeping very well. That there's some variable or variables that lead to the insomnia. And the question really is figuring out what those variables are. So, for example, for myself, I know that as much as I exercise, there are times where I'm not eating enough calories to make up for the deficit from all of the activity. And if I am significantly hypocaloric, not just a couple hundred calories, but like there could be times where I'm 500, 600, 1,000 calories undernourished. My sleep is horrible on those days. And if I'm eating just as many calories as I'm burning, um, I sleep very well on those days. So that's one of the more significant things for me. And I've found, just with friends giving that recommendation to them, uh, at least half of them say their sleep is better when they pay attention to making sure they're eating enough calories for the day. Um, and there's a scientific reason behind it. Like, your body goes into a process called gluconeogenesis to produce enough sugar for your brain, and so on. I won't go into it, but there is legit science behind it. To your question about Novos, yeah, it contains some ingredients that can definitely improve your sleep. So number one, we have an ingredient called magnesium malate. Believe it or not, we included the ingredients primarily for malate, not for the magnesium, but we purposely chose the magnesium form of malate because of the deficiencies people run in magnesium. Approximately 65% of people are deficient in magnesium, and magnesium is incredibly important electrolyte for thousands of reactions in the body. And it's also incredibly important for your nervous system and by extension, your sleep. And a lot of people find they sleep better when they have more magnesium in their diet. They also feel that they're more calm in general and so on. So we have enough magnesium. I'd have to check in terms of percentage daily value, but yeah, we have 71% of your magnesium daily value in one sachet of NOVOS. So, and then add food to it. If you have a decent diet, you're probably hitting the 100% mark. So NOVOS goes very far with getting you adequate magnesium. We also have an ingredient called glycine. Glycine is an amino acid, has a number of longevity promoting effects to it, but it also has been found to help people improve their sleep. It's related to a process called methylation. I won't go into it, but that can also improve sleep. Another ingredient is L-theanine. So L-theanine it's naturally found in green tea. It's also an amino acid, but it's been found not only to help extend lifespan in certain species, but it's also really good for your brain and focus and like a calm focus, right? And so when taken during the day, people, myself included, find it really helps them to focus as easily. Sometimes I feel like I'm a little bit ADD and my mind is going all different directions, but the L-theanine definitely exerts an impact on that. We have 150 milligrams of it, and so that's a significant dosage. But related to sleep, people who take L-theanine at night oftentimes say that they're more calm and it helps them get to sleep. And then the lithium can also be calming to a certain degree. So overall, yes, like our ingredients, there are a few in here that can improve sleep. And just to that point, very quickly, like although we focus on longevity as a company and every product we produce is focused on longevity, we also emphasize short-term benefits in the process. So our ingredients, every single one of them has studies backing them up for longevity. You can find out more about the studies and how we formulated NOVOS if you go to novoslabs.com/how we formulated NOVOS. But with that said, we have short-term benefits, and this is, first of all, based on science. That's how we formulated it. But second of all, based on user surveys. After people are using NOVOS for 3 to 4 weeks, we send them a survey. And what we found is that after 3 to 4 weeks, 70% of our customers have found that they're experiencing short-term benefits. And when you go beyond 4 weeks, the percentage goes up even higher. And those benefits include skin health. So within about a month, people start noticing that their skin has improved complexion or hydration from the inside out. I can tell you about why that happens if you care to know. The second thing is improved sleep. A third is improved calmness or reduced anxiety. Though we're not making medical claims, but that's what people are reporting. Another is improved energy, presumably from the improved sleep. But then there are certain ingredients like alpha-ketoglutarate that can improve cellular energy and mitochondrial health. So I know that's a long answer to your question, but I hope it answers it.
No, that's incredible to hear. I mean, I feel like a lot of people would be very interested in all the short-term benefits as well. I know you've done some testing and you told me a very interesting story the last time I spoke to you about who you were testing this on. Can you tell everybody a little bit about that and how it's been going so far?
Yes, so I can't say too much yet, but what I will say is that our first test subject was my father. So we administered to him before he started taking NOVOS something called an epigenetic test. It is the most accurate that we know of to measure aging in a human to this point. Again, it looks at the epigenome, so which genes are turned on and off, and as you age, different genes turn on and other ones turn off. Like, it makes sense. When you're 8 years old, you should have growth genes turned on. That should turn off when you're 25 or 30 years old, right? So scientists using big data are able to analyze thousands of people's epigenomes and then make these correlations, and AI essentially that outputs what your biological age is as opposed to your chronological age. And the biological age is what's most important, obviously. That's how old you are effectively are. And it also correlates to mortality, the chances that you will pass away. And so I gave this test to my father, and then he started to take NOVOS. Within a month of using NOVOS, My mother, for the very first time in their however long they were married, 30 plus years of marriage, said that my dad's complexion looked nice. And she had no idea that he was taking Novos, didn't know what Novos could do. Like my dad and I geek out on this type of stuff, but my mom is off doing her own thing. So she didn't know, and she said it on her own, which was like a really encouraging anecdotal sign to me. My father then, after 5 months, took another epigenetic test. I can't reveal the results, but let's just say that we were very excited about what the outcome was, and we're doing more tests to replicate this with more people. But it was really exciting to see that. Something I can tell you about is that we've done tests in 4 test subjects in Europe in their 60s, and we used a device called indentometer or indentometer. It depends on if you say potato or potato. But this device is used by NASA with astronauts. It's a scientifically valid device, and you are basically measuring the skin elasticity with this device. And we measure on both cheeks, and we, for all 4 subjects, before taking Novos and then after 5 months of Novos. And every one of the cheeks, so there's 8 cheeks with 4 people, right? Every cheek had an improved elasticity score. So at the least, it was 12%. At the max, it was 40%. And on average, it was a 22% improvement. And that owes itself to some of the ingredients that we have, like the glycine, which is a component of collagen, the calcium alpha ketoglutarate, the glucosamine that we have, the hyaluronic acid. So not only are we potentially or research-based slowing down the rate at which your skin is aging. You know, your skin is an organ, and all organs within your body are affected by the aging process. But we're also getting those short-term benefits that you can see in the mirror in 1 to 2, 3 months time.
That's amazing. I can't wait to try it, actually. I'm going to be in the US for a little bit, so I can finally get it shipped out to me, because it's not available in Mexico yet, correct? Because of the shipping.
Yeah, Mexican customs stopped it. We had customers in Mexico, but it never made it to them. We need to register with Mexico's health authorities first.
Yeah. Okay.
But
so
it
then...
is available in Europe, FYI.
Oh, okay, perfect.
And practically all of Europe, Italy and Spain have given us trouble, but practically everywhere else, the shipments have gotten through.
Okay. So then how does it work? Tell everybody, do you take a pill? Do you take a powder? How often do you take it? And then how long does each dose last?
A good question. So I've been talking mostly about NOVOS Core to this point. We have another product called NOVOS Boost. NOVOS Boost, I don't have in front of me. I can grab it if you'd like, but it's a small pill bottle. It's glass, and it has tiny pills in it. You take 2 of them a day, and that's composed of an ingredient called nicotinamide mononucleotide, or NMN for short. And this ingredient is very popular because Dr. David Sinclair from Harvard, he wrote a book called Lifespan. He's really brought a lot of attention to NMN. It's a super promising ingredient, but it's very expensive. So we didn't want to include it in the NOVOS Core formula because that would have made NOVOS Core too expensive. So we separated them, and you can buy both, obviously. So this is NOVOS Core. It's in the form of daily sachets. So you just tear one of these open, and you pour it into water or into yogurt or your food of your choice. Some people have put it into warm tea, but it's orange flavored. It's all naturally flavored. We use stevia and xylitol, which is a sugar alcohol. So it's calorie-free, sugar-free. It is vegan. I know a lot of people care about that in this day and age, but it is a vegan formula. Even the glucosamine that we use is a vegan form of glucosamine. It's never been tested on animals, unless you consider myself to be an animal. Technically I am, but it's never been tested on anything but humans. So this is what it looks like.
That's incredible news, especially for me and for my audience as well, because I'm mostly vegan, vegetarian at times, also completely against animal testing. So I think everyone's going to be very excited about this. So then how often did you say that you take that? Once daily?
Once daily, yes.
Okay.
Yes, and it
And
depends on your preference. Some people like to take it in the morning because it can help with energy, but everyone's biology is different. Some people, it's fewer, but some people have reported that they like taking it in the evening because it helps them sleep in the evening. So, we would encourage you to start with it with your first meal, not on an empty stomach. Take it with food, and then see how it works with your biology, and you can consider taking it in the evening and see if that helps you to sleep better.
how many servings does it come with?
Each box is 30 sachets, 30 servings. These are recyclable, by the way, and it's made out of aluminum essentially, and the box is also recyclable. But yeah, you get 30 servings in each box.
Amazing. You guys thought of everything.
We
So then
tried, not everything, but
tell me a little bit more about the team because I know they're all extremely high level individuals. And I mean, I wouldn't even be able to begin to start to talk about them. But tell me a little bit more about your co-founder, about everybody that's advising you.
sure. So Dr. Chris Verberg, I mentioned earlier, you can find his book on Amazon. The Longevity Code sold about 500,000 copies of that book. That book goes into what you can do in terms of your diet and your certain supplements and daily routines and so on. It's a science-driven book, but it's intended for the general audience, so you don't need to be scientifically savvy to comprehend the book. He also goes into some of the longer-term high-tech approaches to aging as well, if you're curious to learn more about that. And I mentioned some information about him earlier, so I won't repeat myself. Someone else who's really exciting on our scientific advisory board is Dr. George Church. So Dr. George Church is considered the grandfather of synthetic biology, is what they call him. He's a professor at Harvard and a professor at MIT. He invented the first genome sequencing method in the 1980s, which is absolutely amazing. Many people expect that he'll win the Nobel Prize. When it comes to longevity, he's an enthusiast and a researcher and so on, very well respected in the bio community. Another advisor of ours is Dr. Matt Caberline. He studied at MIT. He's now at the University of Washington. He is running a very popular study in the longevity community that was featured on the cover of Time magazine called the Dog Aging Project, in which he is studying the effects of a prescription drug called rapamycin on dogs' health span and lifespan, with the intention of seeing how it impacts humans as well, because dogs are the closest things to humans in many ways that we've got, in the sense that they share our environment. They're living, right next to us. They're a more evolved mammal species than mice are, and the results that he's getting from his studies are really promising and great to help dogs live longer, healthier lives. Another person is Dr. J. Pedro Magalhaes. He's a Harvard Medical School graduate, but he's now at the University of Liverpool, where he leads up their department that focuses on aging and chronic disease. He's a TED speaker. He manages databases of molecules and how those molecules have affected all different species in terms of longevity. His early research was on the bowhead whale, which has a very long lifespan. I can't recall exactly, but it's in the hundreds of years. And understanding better from a genetic standpoint why they would live so much longer than humans are able to, and other species, of course. And then Dr. Pamela Mayer, I mentioned earlier. She is at the Salk Institute for Biological Studies and studies largely these natural compounds found in fruits and vegetables, and their impact on brain health. And then we have two other scientists also out of Harvard Medical School that have studied genetics and aging and so on. So we have a fantastic crew that have helped us with the formulation. So Dr. Verberg has led up the formulation, but with the help of these scientists that were giving us a lot of perspective and led us to removing certain ingredients and adding other ingredients and so on. They're helping us with human studies that will be running, larger human studies beyond just the small groups that we've worked with so far. So they've been really instrumental to us getting this product out there.
How long did it take all of you to develop Novos? I mean, it's such a big group, just such a big group of intellectuals. How long did it take?
Let's see. So the concept for NOVOS was about, for me, about 4 years old or so. Dr. Verberg was thinking of a similar business idea. I don't know for how long, but the quick story is we met at a longevity conference in Berlin, hosted by a scientist named Aubrey de Grey. He's an iconic figure in the space. Um, there have been documentaries that, produced about him. He's also a TED speaker. So he has this event in Berlin with all of the scientists, and I presented the concept for NOVOS to an after conference dinner, and uh, it was hosted by a nonprofit, which, by the way, I forgot to mention this, we're a public benefit corporation, and we're teamed up with a nonprofit to help to administer studies in trying to improve health span and lifespan. But I presented the concept for NOVOS, and Chris approached me after the dinner, and he told me that he has had a vision for a company like this for a long time. And at first I was like, yeah, that's what everyone says, but now he really did. And when he was talking, I realized that we had the same vision for a company. We thought almost identically about this. And that also was a good validation for me that I'm onto something, because a medical doctor with his credentials, seeing the world the same way that I did, as an entrepreneur, but not a medical doctor, really added credibility to the approach that I was taking. And so we spent some time working together, a little bit informally, but after about 6 months, I asked him to join as a co-founder. It's been about 2 years since we began working on the formulation. Before releasing the formulation to the public, we did some testing with some test groups of a few dozen people to try out NOVOS, report benefits, any potential side effects, and so on. And we were happy to find that there were no side effects that people were experiencing, other than some favorable things like skin health or improved sleep and so on. And so that was enough for us to then work on the production of the product, which took about 7 or 8 months. And we finally launched it in January of this year. So January 14th was our launch date. We sold out of our product in 2 days. And yeah, there's a lot of enthusiasm for the product, and we're doing more production of it now. We have some units in stock of NOVOS Core. NOVOS Boost is now sold out again, but NOVOS Core, we have a few units left, and we're close to selling out on that, but we're hoping to have a restock in about 5 weeks, 6 weeks after, in case we do sell out.
Wow. So I have a question. Is it going to improve your lifestyle in general, or is it going to improve your lifespan? And if it does improve lifespan, by how many years do you estimate?
Great questions that I'm afraid I can't really fully answer, because it's really hard to know like how much it can improve span. The difficulty with this is that you can't really do like full human studies, like double-blind placebo-controlled studies with humans. Number one, because we live so long, right? Like I can't give it to you and then wait whatever 60 years, 70 years to see like what year you pass away. Like it would just be like by then we'll have so much new technology, like no one's even thinking of NOVOS anymore in 70 years from now, possibly, right? So, or at least this form of NOVOS. So you can't do the studies, and that's where things like epigenetic tests come in. And without doing enough tests at scale, we can't really put a number to that. We're optimistic, but like we are a science-driven company, and I think I would be violating that by giving you a specific number. We don't want to make false promises. And to that point about false promises, in terms of lifestyle versus lifespan, we are at the core a lifespan business. We have these ingredients that can potentially positively impact lifestyle as well, like we mentioned before, with improved sleep or focus and so on. But that is not the reason why someone should be buying a NOVOS product. A person should be buying a NOVOS product because they want to slow down cellular aging. They want to be able to extend their health span and lifespan. And these added benefits, a majority of people experience them. There are some people that won't experience them, especially People that have extremely healthy lifestyles as it is and are already supplementing with a bunch of things like magnesium, and maybe they're taking L-theanine with their coffee or drinking a lot of green tea, that person's less likely to notice the short-term benefits than somebody who's not doing those things. With that said, that person who's already doing those things is probably a health enthusiast and wants to take NOVOS purely for the long-term benefits. They're not looking for that short-term benefit. So it's a balance. I just want to be clear that you should buy NOVOS for the sake of the long term, and then benefit from these short-term impacts. But you shouldn't buy it simply for the short term.
So is NOVOS something you would recommend somebody to take for the rest of their lives?
Yeah, I mean, so the quick answer is yes. I would recommend people take it for the rest of their lives. Do you have to take it for the rest of your life? No. I mean, it's just like, exercise or eating healthy. Like, the longer you do it for, the more benefit you'll see from it. But even doing it for a year or two is still going to be more beneficial than having never exercised or never eaten healthy in your life. So the longer you do it, the benefits will accumulate more. And to that point, the question that I've gotten from customers before is related to age and when to start taking it and when they'll feel effects and so on. And the way to think about this is, the older you are, the more pronounced the short-term benefits will seem to you, right? You will notice, for example, skin health improving better if you're 70 years old, where you have wrinkles and fine lines and less hyaluronic acid in your skin, for example, than if you're 25 years old. With that said, if you start taking when you're 25 and you take it for a long time, the benefits will accumulate more. So you're starting at an earlier age and you will have more benefits over a long period of time. So the answer is, there's really no perfect age to use it. Like, there's different benefits that you'll experience at different points in your life from taking it. But the longer you can take it for, and with that said, as a company, we are not a supplement company. We don't like to think of ourselves as a supplement company. We see ourselves as being a longevity platform. If you go to our website, you'll find a lot of educational content. If you click on knowledge, you'll see articles written by medical doctors about longevity, and you can learn a ton from that. We have an ebook coming out soon that's about 125, 130 pages, written by Dr. Verberg, with a lot of relevant information in it. You can also do some fun things on our website. You know about this because you were one of our beta testers. If you go to products on our website and you go to age tests, eventually we'll have scientific age tests like the Epigenetic test that you'll be able to purchase. But for now, we have some free tests that are really cool. So one is a survey where we'll give you a score out of 100 in terms of your longevity score, things like lifestyle or family history and so on. But the other thing I love, and you tested, is what's called face age. So you can find that at novoslabs.com/face age. And you can take a selfie with your smartphone, you enter your email address, and that's it. You submit it, and 60 seconds later, you receive an email report. And this email report gives you, based on AI that's been trained on a data set of 12 million people, you'll get an output of your face's age that the computer computes, your eye age, and then other skin health markers like wrinkles, your skin redness, skin uniformness, pore size, etc. And so on the one hand, you can use this as a guide, like you take the picture before using NOVOS, then take it 3 months later, let's say. It's not going to be perfectly accurate because you need the perfect lighting conditions. They need to be identical. You should be, well hydrated, like had enough water, slept well the night before, and so on. So we're not using this in a scientific capacity, but as a rough guideline of how your skin health is doing over time. It's a fun tool for people to be able to play around with on our website. So we're all about the products, the knowledge, and the testing. And that testing will become a lot more scientifically valid when we launch the epigenetic test and blood tests and so on that you can do from the comfort of your home. And so we want to help people to live a longer life in a accountable way, not just sell a product and say, trust us, but give you the tools to be able to check for yourself.
Yeah, I submitted my selfie and most of it was fun because it was a good number. I mean, I think it gave me like 23 or 24. So I
Wait, you're not
obviously,
23?
I wish. No, but that was amazing. No, I was pretty happy with the results. I think the only one that was a little bit negative was in the eye area, and I can completely attribute that to insomnia. So, what did you get in yours?
I got, oh, and by the way, just a note, like the test is more accurate for people over 35 years old. Most of the data set
Mm,
is trained on people over 35. So if you're
okay.
below it, it's going to be a little bit less accurate. Um, and again, don't take this test personally. It's a computer. It's based on data. It's not, it's, although highly accurate for certain people with certain facial features, it's not as accurate. So don't, you know, invest too much of yourself into this. But for me, I'm 37, and well, actually, I'll be 37 next month. And my results, I've done many tests. So at the best, it was 29. At the worst, it was 34. So, but like I said, I use sunblock when I go outside on my face. That's what I attribute it to. That plus Nova.
How long have you been using Novos?
I've been using it for 15 months now. When we first put together the beta product for testers, I was one of the testers as well, and I've taken it continuously ever since then.
What are some
I've
of
noticed
the
like subtle
effects?
changes. Yeah, I've noticed like when it comes to skin health, since we're talking about it, like for example, and I wasn't fully aware of this at first, but I was going through my iPhone and I was looking at pictures of myself from like 10, 12 years ago. And I noticed that I had like certain like the nasal labial fold here and like certain areas of my skin were less than perfect. And looking at myself now, I noticed that my skin looks better back then. And so um, you can't reverse aging or skin aging by using sunblock. You can just slow it down. So it's not the sunblock, right? So I really do think that it's probably coming from Novos. One interesting fact is that by the time you're 75 years old, you have lost 75% of the hyaluronic acid in your skin, and that begins in your 20s, right? So in your mid 30s, I don't know what the stat is, and I'm sure it exists somewhere, but you probably lost a good 15 or 20% of the hyaluronic acid in your skin. So if you're supplementing with it, and it has been proven that the body does take that up and put it in your skin, then that could be one explanation for why it improved. I'm also, I think, a lot more focused. It's hard to say how much of that is attributable to Novos, but I think that the L-theanine, because I was already taking magnesium and so on before, but I wasn't taking the L-theanine and lithium, and I think that those might be attributable to the focus. So, as a startup entrepreneur, I'm working very long hours, typically 9 a.m. to 8 or 9 p.m. every day, and I can focus throughout the entire day. Like I feel like lunch is a distraction. It's just really, really great focus that I have. So I think that those are probably the two most noticeable things for myself. But like I said, we did surveys with customers, and some people notice very different things than others. So it's really individual.
That's incredible. I'm very excited for your company and the future success that it's going to have. But what do you define success in your company personally?
That's a good question. I'd say success would be defined as achieving or approaching our vision, which is to extend health span and lifespan. So if we have scientific data to show that we are improving span first and foremost, because health span is actually to how long you can live a healthy life, and not have any debilitating illnesses or chronic illnesses, right? And then by extension, lifespan as well, then I would say we've achieved success. And so that really comes down to us doing the scientific testing that we're going to be initiating very soon. We're raising a fund or a round of financing right now. And after we've raised that round of financing, we should have the budget to be able to execute on these larger scale studies. So I'd say that, when you get into when you put the investor hat on or the entrepreneur hat, you also think of KPIs or key performance indicators of like of how well you're expanding, and is the company profitable or losing money, and so on. So those things, obviously, I think about in a more analytical mindset. But true success would be that we're extending health span and lifespan for our users of NOVOS.
Well, you're doing an incredible thing for everyone on this planet. I mean, not only are you helping with life longevity, you're also, your product is vegan, everything is recyclable, you don't test on animals, you're making people look better, feel better, sleep better. I mean, it's like, it literally is a fountain of youth. That's incredible. I mean, I don't know who would not want to purchase this. I definitely will.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you. I personally wouldn't go as far as saying a fountain of youth, but if you're going to say it, I'll take the compliment. Thank you.
No, such a good chat with you, Chris. Is there anything else that I'm missing that you would like to tell the audience?
I think just to check out novoslab.com. Even if you aren't ready to become a customer, there's a lot of really powerful information and tools there, like the face age or the knowledge section. Um, we, as a company, as a public benefit company, are intent on educating the public and making them aware of this, because the health world, the medical world, the alternative health world has not done an effective job of communicating the science and transferring that knowledge to the medical community or the consumer market. And so we as a company are intent on doing this. And so keep checking back, because we will be launching other forms of content like videos and podcasts eventually. And we also intend to have additional products launching in the next 12 months or so. So it'll be more than just NOVOS Core and NOVOS Boost.
Incredible. So excited to see the progress and what's to come with Novos. So, guys, if you want to learn more, of course, like he said, go to novoslabs.com, and then there you can find a ton of information. Do you have any social media platforms that people might want to follow to get more information as well?
Yes, we do. So we're on Instagram. Please follow us at NOVOS Labs. Same thing on Twitter and Facebook. So NOVOS Labs across all of the platforms.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and share all of those on my Instagram as well. And obviously, I'm going to be sharing clips of this video if you guys are watching it already, or if you are going to watch it after you listen to the podcast. But guys, I'm very, very happy that I had Chris on here with me today from Novos. I will see you guys next time on the Karla Code. Bye bye.
Thank you, Karla.